Namo Phat. Good morning. Thank you for joining me for a daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The fifth mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful consumption, I vow to cultivate good health, both physical and mental, for myself, my family, and my society, by practicing mindful eating, drinking, and consuming. I will ingest only items that preserve peace, well-being, and joy in my body, in my consciousness, and in the collective body and consciousness of my family and society. I'm determined not to use alcohol or any other items that contain toxins, such as certain TV programs, magazines, books, films, and conversations. I am aware that to damage my body or my consciousness with these poisons is to betray my ancestors, my parents, my society, and future generations. I will work to transform violence, fear, anger, and confusion in myself and in society by practicing a diet for myself and for society. I understand that a proper diet is crucial for self-transformation and the transformation of society. We're finishing reading a Dhamma talk by Ajahn Candasiri called A Handful of Leaves today. It's from the book The Body, Dhamma Reflections on Aging, Illness, and Death by the nuns of Amaravati. This is why it's so important to spend time on retreat, because then we have an opportunity to begin to investigate and to see the way that we've constructed this edifice of who and what we are. We can see the habits we struggle with, how we imagine that if we could get rid of the things we don't like and just get all the things we do like, we would be happy forever. We have an opportunity to begin to challenge some of the subliminal assumptions we make about ourselves and our life. During a retreat, you may have moments of insight when you say, "Oh my goodness, I never really saw that before. I never realized that." These moments of clarity are definitely something to celebrate, and having had that insight, you may want to hold on to it. But it's not like that. We have to keep applying ourselves because we forget again. We wake up and then we fall asleep again. We have to keep waking up. Every time we recognize that we've got caught in some pattern of struggle, of dukkha, we need to ask, what am I wanting right now? What's this struggle about? We keep looking deeper and deeper, and so this path of practice becomes very interesting. Please don't allow yourself to think of practice as something you've got to do and succeed at, or that you'll never be any good at. We can make ourselves so miserable when we regard it in that way, rather than seeing it as a wonderful way of practice that the Buddha presented for our happiness, for our welfare, to liberate us from suffering. So please don't use your Buddhist practice as a way to make yourself miserable, but as a way to liberate the heart. See if you can find ways to enjoy and be interested in it. It can be like a fascinating puzzle. Little by little, we can notice the ways we get caught and gently and gradually unpick them. In the woods at Chithurst, there are many patches of bramble, and sometimes they're exactly in the way of where you want to go. If you're like me, you'll decide, I want to go through here, and I'm not going to let a few brambles get in the way. So you walk into the brambles, and of course, you suddenly find your clothes caught on the thorns. You can struggle, which is what we tend to do habitually. But if you do that, you end up tearing your clothes and getting scratched, and though eventually you get through, you're in an awful mess as a result. However, if you're clever, As soon as you notice you're caught, you stop. You stay very still, and you say, okay, where am I caught? Aha, I'm caught here. And you unpick yourself. In that way, you free yourself without causing a lot of extra trouble or getting yourself even more tangled up. So the way of practice is just like dealing with a patch of brambles and seeing how few scratches you can come out with. You can also think of it as like a ball of yarn that you're trying to untangle. If you get frustrated and tug at it, the knots become tighter. The best thing to do is to stop, take a considered look, and find where you have to begin to untangle it. You untangle that bit, and then the next. Sometimes that just gets you a little further, but sometimes the whole thread comes free. And you may find this in your practice. Sometimes you see something and it's just a little step forward, but other times whole scenarios that you've created suddenly collapse. This is an attitude I would like to encourage. Finally, just to recap on the Four Noble Truths, this wise, compassionate teaching that the Buddha presented. Firstly, the noble truth of suffering. And what's noble about suffering? It's the willingness to take an interest in it and to understand it rather than just trying to get rid of it. Secondly, the noble truth of the origin of suffering, looking into what I don't want or what I do want, into the different kinds of wanting and the attachment to them. Those desires are to be let go of, relinquished. The third noble truth is the cessation of suffering, which is realized when the desire has been let go of. And then, the fourth noble truth is the Eightfold Path, which is to be developed. That's the handful of leaves that the Buddha presented, everything we need to know in order to liberate the heart. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for joining me this morning.